has the second best recruiting class in the country.
The alarm goes off, it's your fault.
Okay, we're all set.
Okay, good evening. The March 2025 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals is now in session. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Jeff Crawford.
Here.
Tim Emmer.
Here.
Judy Ennis.
Here.
Hobie Johnson.
Yes.
Rod Noble.
Yes.
David Flager.
Here.
Jay Sockman. Here.
Okay, the first order of business is the approval of the minutes from the January 2025 meeting as previously circulated. Are there
Even though
any?
it says April.
Pardon me?
I said, even though it says April on the,
Oh. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve as circulated?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Johnson, seconded by Mr. Flieger. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, we have two requests for variances this evening, and we're all refreshed, I think, that they aren't driveways or fences. So you're here because you've made application for a zoning permit that does not meet the requirements of the zoning code. And as I'm sure you've been advised, the Zoning Board of Appeals has the ability to grant a variance from those requirements to allow you to carry out your project. In order for us to determine that you're eligible for that variance, we have to find that strict application of the regulations in the zoning code would cause you a practical difficulty. So I'd like for you to keep that in mind as you address us this evening, that we need to find through your application and your testimony tonight that the strict application of the code would cause you a practical difficulty in what you hope to accomplish with your project. Appeals of the decisions by the board may be made to the Wood County Court of Common Pleas. And the way we'll proceed is I will read the variance request for the record. We'll ask Heather Saylor, the city planning director, to give us an overview of the request and the applicable law. And then use the applicant or the applicant's representative or both will be invited to present credible evidence, again, citing reasons why the strict application of the code would cause you practical difficulties. If you have not already, would you please sign the sign-in sheet back by the door? There's also copies of the agenda there. We will proceed in the order that the requests are on the agenda. And this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, so anyone choosing to give testimony tonight is required to swear an oath to tell the truth. There's a court reporter present who will take a verbatim record of the hearings. So at this time, if you plan to or think you might testify tonight in either of our cases, would you please stand and raise your right hand? Okay, do you swear that the testimony you give in these matters tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. All right, first case is Dylan Patterson of Fast Signs on behalf of VTech Systems Incorporated has requested a variance to allow the construction of a 24-inch by 48-inch wayfinding sign of 65 inches tall, which would be 5 square feet larger than the 3 square foot maximum size allowed and 29 inches taller than the 36-inch maximum height allowed for a wayfinding sign located at 134 Woodgate Drive. So Heather, if you would give us the rundown, please.
Thank you. So under the zoning code, section 150.84, the sign regulations table, this property is zoned innovation and employment, IE, and you'll see under that table that the types of signs permitted, wayfinding sign is considered allowed as part of that zoning. As far as this goes, it's not counted towards their maximum number of signs because wayfinding signs are not included as part of that. However, in this situation, under the same section 150.82 sign regulations, under P2, wayfinding sign regulations, no wayfinding sign may have a sign height that exceeds 3 feet or exceeds 3 square feet in size. So they are requesting that this sign be larger in height and larger in size. Here's an aerial view of the property highlighting the parcel. As you can see, it's new enough building that it's not even on this aerial view that I pulled. Now the building starts to appear on this pictometry that I pulled. So this would be facing north, looking at the building under construction. They did build a speculative building, and then they ended up adding 2 additions once they had a company called Magna leasing the building. Here's another view of the building at the side. There's another view of the building on the other side. This actually is a new road that expanded Woodbridge Business Park called Woodgate. Here's another view of the building. And then here's a picture of the building as you enter Woodgate from East Wooster. Here's closer up looking towards north when you head on Woodgate there. They have 2 drives. The second driveway, when you look closer up there, is where they'd like to put the wayfinding sign for truck traffic. They were approved already for a permit for a wall sign and a monument sign. And we did not receive any phone calls or emails after we sent the required letter to the neighboring properties. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice was placed at the site. The other notices required by the Administrative Code were posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed, first-class mail, to the tax mailing address of the owner and all the adjoining property owners. Therefore, all the procedure requirements for the hearing have been met.
Very good, thank you. Quick question. You said that they have applied for the permit for a wall sign and a monument sign. Do those meet the requirements in terms of number and square footage?
Yes, this was the only sign submitted as part of the signage package that did not meet the wayfinding requirements.
Very good. And you're the representative?
Yes, my name is Carrie Brock, and I'm the owner of Fast Signs.
Okay, and would you please state your address also, your home address for the record?
5067 Brent Crossing Boulevard, Sylvania, Ohio.
Okay, can you affirm for me that you swore your oath to tell the truth?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. Tell us what's going on.
So essentially, this is obviously a large-scale property with a large manufacturing plant. They get a lot of truck traffic, semi-truck traffic. And so everything else we can do to fit within the zoning guides, but they would like to make a larger, not that large, but a slightly larger sign at a higher height so that the truck drivers can actually see it when they go to the drive to enter in.
Okay, anything else?
I think that covers it for now.
Anyone from the board have questions?
Where's the sign gonna go exactly? By that picture, is it by the far lamp post? The one that's kind of real tiny up there?
It would be just north of that second drive that you see in the background.
There any other businesses down there at this time? Yeah.
I don't believe so.
So y'all would be the only one there?
Correct.
But you need a giant sign, even though it's the only building down there.
Well, the zoning code as it stands right now is a 3 foot by 1 foot. That is sometimes smaller than a real estate type sign, and it only can be 3 feet off the ground. The problem is that a truck driver obviously sits quite higher, and when they're coming down the street, they don't have a lot of time to decide what drive or what entrance to go into. So having something more identifiable and a little bit larger so that the actual text of the truck entrance can be taller too would be more beneficial for them.
Those can only sit 3 foot off the ground?
Correct, that's the maximum height. And as I mentioned, this is a new road in the city, probably one of the newest roads. It provides secondary access to Woodbridge Business Park, which is really important to the city. So this is the first building built on Woodgate. I am working with a few other developers, so there will be future development on additional parcels there.
Can you back out a picture or two just to overview the real big area?
Yes.
If I can see it, please. There you go, perfect.
So your particular difficulty is that the truck drivers aren't going to be able to see the signs, which I can see why they
Yeah.
be a problem.
And I think if they tried to enter into that first drive, it actually goes right to the parking lot and the front of the building. So it would cause a great traffic problem. And they may not even be able to swing around to get in or out, back out if they needed to, if they went to the wrong drive.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is there anything unique about this property that is not the same as any of the neighboring properties?
That I can't necessarily answer, but I will say in our experience with doing other large manufacturing plants, this is a smaller request than what we do for most truck entrance signs, just because we're trying to be respectful of the code as much as possible, but still be legible enough. Because of the truck traffic, I don't know if any of the neighboring properties have this kind of semi-truck traffic, but because of that, this is kind of crucial. I know that in the past, Amazon, the one in Rossford, had a significantly higher, like 7 or 10 foot high sign for their truck traffic, and it was a 4 square foot sign. So we're trying to be modest, but at the same point in time, be visible.
But this hasn't actually been a problem yet. You're just trying to get out in front of it being a problem.
Correct. It would be better to start now when everyone then is learning the truck traffic pattern than try to correct truck drivers in the future.
And so the confusing part about the traffic pattern is the drive in the front.
Because there's dual drive, right? And they only want truck traffic in the one drive.
Good questions. Anyone else?
Yes. Have you considered maybe just having the sign higher but not wider?
I still think that the size of the words truck entrance would have to be significantly smaller with a 3 foot by 1 foot. I mean, that's what you would have is a 3 foot wide by 1 foot tall. And you'd have to stack the text then. So you wouldn't even probably get 4-inch high letters on that sign to spell out truck entrance. So it is kind of limiting in that respect as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
On your renderings here, though, the mega logo is just as large as the truck entrance font.
It's probably about half the size, but that's just an identifier so that people know since it is a leased building, there's also I think there is another tenant maybe in the building. It's just an identifier for them to keep it brand consistent. But really the truck entrance, I mean, we could have stacked truck entrance and made it huge, but we're trying to be as modest as we can with still making it directional for them.
Have you considered any landscaping around the sign or anything to improve
I
the
am not the
aesthetics
property
of it?
owner, so I cannot speak to that.
That's unfortunate that they aren't here to speak to that.
I can always make suggestions back to them, or if that is a requirement, I can let them know that. I'm sure that they would oblige.
We also have the ability to add conditions such as landscaping in this case to an approval, so.
Do you know if the other VTEC building, I know that there's in the past been some issues with the stacked up crates, and maybe you're not the one to speak to this. No?
No, I'm merely the sign contractor.
Do you know if there'll be any other things on the property like there are at that other facility?
Not that I am aware of.
What's the timing on this if we were to, and I'm not suggesting this, but if by chance we would choose to table this until we can get answers to some of these questions?
The rest of the sign package is being installed this month. So we would ideally like to install it at the same time because obviously without the signage, it's harder for them to have traffic and flow.
Well, as I said, it's unfortunate that someone from the company is not present to answer those kinds of questions.
Again, I am happy to always take it back to them and let them know that these are the requirements that the board has for them. I'm sure that they will comply. And they've been very nice to work with, and they understand that this is a request and a special request. So if you made it a requirement, we can always address that with them.
I will just speak up here a bit. You know, as part of their site plan approval process for building the building and then the additions, they do have to have landscaping. It's just not particular to the sign. Does that make sense? So there is going to be landscaping. Obviously, the site's not fully constructed yet and finalized. And obviously, you can only plant certain times of the year too. That's important to note. But there will be landscaping there, just, again, not specific to that sign.
Have they agreed to do the landscape in accordance to the new code?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I think some landscaping there would help, particularly the height and even the size variances that they're requesting would help soften that a little bit.
Except the trucks would probably run over it.
I think it'll be far enough back that I don't think we'd have to worry about that.
That's not a big area. We're not talking about a big significant expense for, a few boxwoods or something like that.
Did you have a picture of the front entrance or the first drive entrance? So are those two parking lots conjoined at all, the front entrance and the truck entrance?
I do believe they now go through, but I'm not 100% on that.
So yeah, it does look like it is.
Yeah, it looks like it goes in front of that fence or whatever that was. Yeah, right there. Looks like it
So-
goes, that
That
bay
goes-
right there, it goes
Yeah,
through.
that goes across the front of the building. I just don't know if it connects to the truck parking lot, but I do, I think it does. I'm just not
Yeah,
100%
it
sure.
does.
Yeah,
Next to the road,
Yeah.
looks like.
I'm sure it does. I also have the site plan, which is part of what we approved when the building was originally built, if you want to see that.
I don't think it's necessary. Anyone else have questions, comments?
I feel like I need more questions answered before I would vote to support this. And it's really has to do with that other building. And I know it's been an issue with some of those neighbors, and I tend to agree with their issues. And I would want to know, I would just want to limit the amount of stuff we put, advertising that we put out there with, and not knowing questions and whether there'll be other things stacked out there like there are at the current VTech facility. I'm just not prepared to support it.
Is a representative of the company, would they be willing to come back next month and answer some of these
I can
questions?
certainly ask. I mean, I don't think it would be a problem, but
I think it would be a good idea if that's the route we go, because
Sure.
we're going to be back in the same spot if not, so.
Yeah, my biggest issue, I'm sorry, I just want to step in here real quick, is, most truck drivers, smart ones, I mean, see the docks down at the end of the thing, they're going to go in the second entrance. But, I mean, that would just be my theory, too.
I cannot speak for the company, but as I do understand this project, they did lease this building because they are well aware they needed more storage space. I can't, though, directly say that that is going to address what your question is. I'm just telling you that's what I know about the project.
Okay. Final thoughts? Anyone care to make a motion?
I move that we grant the variance as requested.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
I think I'd feel more comfortable having a few more questions answered.
I tend to agree with that, too. For the third time, I think it's unfortunate that someone from the company didn't decide to come this evening. Anyone else?
Question, so does she have the ability to table it until next month? Otherwise, if we deny it, they're going to have to pay another $100 for another.
We would vote to table it.
I'm just, yeah. Well, she could request us to.
Well, we have a motion on the floor we
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to
right.
deal with, and if it's not successful, we can go from there. All right, are we ready to call the question then? It's moved by Ms. Ennis, and I'm sorry I didn't catch the second.
Hobie Johnson.
Oh, Mr. Johnson, second. Please call the roll.
Judy Ennis.
Yes?
Rod Noble.
No.
Hobie Johnson.
Yes.
David Flager.
No.
Jay Sockman. No. Tim Emmerich.
No.
Jeff Crawford.
No.
All right. Your request for the variance did not pass. I think at this point, then, what you would need to do is alter the plan and refile.
Correct?
okay, thank you.
Or appeal to the Wood County Court of Common Pleas.
All right, thank you.
Those two options. Okay. Second request, Kyle Inbody of Zoning Resources on behalf of Kroger has requested a variance to allow the construction of a 9-foot by 10-foot by 16-foot wall sign which is 157.3 square feet, which would be 45.3 square feet larger than the 112 square foot maximum allowed size, and would cause this business to further exceed the 336 square foot maximum total aggregate by 354.1 square feet, for a total of 690.1 square feet at 1094 Main Street. And would you please state your name and your home address, please?
Yes, I'm Kyle Embody, 609 Terry Street in Findlay, Ohio.
Okay. and
Do you want me
affirm
to,
for
excuse me, want me to give my report first?
Yep, hang on. You affirm for me that you,
I do.
thank you.
Sure, no problem. So under the zoning code, section 150.84, the sign regulations table, Kroger has several variances historically that you probably saw in your packet that I gave you a memo about. But the maximum number of signs allowed is 3, which they already exceed and had prior variances for. And then the maximum size of an individual sign is 112 square feet. And then the total sign area, which is the total of all signs added together, can be a maximum of 336 square feet in this zoning district, which is C, commercial. Here's an aerial view of the property using pictometry. Here's another view of the property facing north, the rear of the building, the front of the building, the side of the building. You may recall that you issued a variance, I think a little over a year ago, for the same sign. So I'll, of course, let Mr. Embody describe this request. So you did approve that, and this sign would be in the same spot, but a little larger. Here is a picture of the front of the building, so you'll see it already has several signs. And then zooming in a bit, you'll see the pharmacy sign there on the right with the drive-through, the little clinic, another view of the 2 main entry points, the Starbucks sign, liquor sign, Kroger Marketplace, and then the pylon for the gas station, and then the existing pylon, which also has variances too. In your packet was an aerial view of the property, and we tried to circle and highlight the location of the sign here on the building. And then we included as part of the package, which since it was submitted as part of the application, the entire signage package, so you can see the Kroger rebranding. So I just showed these on the screen just so you're aware that these don't need a variance, but again, I'm just showing the entire sign package. So this marketplace sign would be able to be approved by our office. Here's the new pharmacy sign they're proposing that again would be able to be approved administratively. There's also rebranding for this liquor sign that you'll see there, the existing and proposed. And then the same thing for the top of the existing pylon would be another face change. And then the gas station would be another face change. And then the last page here of your packet was showing that pickup sign and the pharmacy drive-through where the variance is required. So again, the maximum size is 112 square feet. This is proposed to be 157.3 square feet. You previously approved on May 8th of last year, 122.7 square foot sign. So again, that bumps up that total aggregate a bit too. And here's a closer up view of the proposed sign. Again, I gave you a memo of all the past variances, starting all the way back from 1980. So if you have any questions about those, please let me know. Otherwise, we want to make sure that we included that most recent variance so you're aware. We did not receive any correspondence from any of the adjoining property owners, so no phone calls and no written letters. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice was placed at the site. The other notices required by the Administrative Code were posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed, first class mail to the tax mailing address of the owner and adjoining property owners. Therefore, all the procedure requirements for the hearing have been met.
Thank you. Just to clarify, were the signs that were subject of the variances approved in May, were those actually installed?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
Okay. Mr. Embody, sorry for jumping the gun earlier.
no, you're fine. Help clarify, I'm Mr. Embody with Zoning Resources. We are working with the sign contractor, so I am not directly employed by Kroger. We're contracted in here. Any questions about what Kroger might do as an alternate? All I believe at the moment is they would leave the existing signs, the old branding for the entire sign package as is. This is a very confusing property with all the past variances, the current variance, and what we're talking about today. And if I'm understanding this correctly, the way that this variance is written, it'll bump up the aggregate. And with this approval, all of the other signs can be administratively approved if this one sign is approved as displayed to you guys today. So this sign right here kind of hinges on the entire rebranding project, the way that'll work out. So with this property, it's a very large property, and that's what we believe is unique to Kroger. There are lots of services in this one commercial building, whether it's the Ohio Liquor Store, the Minute Clinic, the pharmacy, the Kroger Marketplace. There's one more that I can't pull off the top of my head. Just a
Starbucks.
variety. Starbucks, thank you. The variety of services that are in there, and that's why we believe previously this variance was approved to allow the proper advertising of all the different stakeholders, even though they're inside one business. So you see inside the plans what we are proposing to do and how that all hinges on the wording of this variance. Does anyone have any questions about it?
Talk to me about that practical difficulty issue.
Practically, this is about a 7% increase on what is already allowed at the property, and that is with the list of 4 or 5 different businesses we have in this one property. We're kind of fitting all those businesses into that same scope in the zoning code, where Kroger is bearing the difficulty of the sign limitations, even though there's multiple partners within the Kroger that these signs are for. So it's a little bit different than just your normal one-off stores. And it is a much larger building than many commercial properties.
And again, the difficulty becomes that the Kroger Corporation wants to rebrand. Is that accurate? That's where your practical, this isn't something that the
So
local
this-
management decided to do, or?
Yes, the whole project is, so there's going to be the rebranding, and just like last year, the addition of the pickup. Though since COVID, the rise of pickup has been very popular in the stores, so that's another service they wanted to add here in that wall signage. So with the rebranding as a whole, it will increase the aggregate size as it states. So yes, I think that would be a fair statement.
Okay. Anyone else, questions, comments?
I have a question for Heather. So when I'm looking at these two pictures, that one on the left, if that were the sign being put up, that wouldn't require that they be here.
It did require.
Correct, sort of. So the sign, let me go back here. They can do the size that they were approved back in May of last year, that variance. But this one is a little larger, so you can kind of see the edge of it, well, right here. So here's what they put up after the variance was granted last year. So they could do the same thing or smaller.
So, all right, I'm still confused then. This is the new sign that's going up.
No, it just looks like it.
Gotcha.
The new
It's
sign,
going to
they're-
be bigger than that.
Correct. So you have to get a new variance if you're going larger.
Okay,
If he was going smaller, you wouldn't, but larger you would.
okay.
And the only difference is it's the exact same sign. It's just bigger.
I believe so, but what we're talking about here is the entirety of the sign package. So like the liquor sign might grow a little, marketplace will shrink a lot. And the total aggregate of all of those signs kind of ebbs and flows, and putting all this variance on a single sign, that wording will get us into where we're compliance where the entire sign package could be approved. That's but part of the reason you have the entire sign package there. Even though the variance and the wording is specifically on this pickup sign, it's kind of,
For everything.
everything's hinging on that one.
What's
So that sign's not changing. That's going to stay there.
It's gonna be some, yes.
that's gonna
just-
become bigger,
It is?
is it not?
No.
Yeah, it'll become bigger, which I tried to, let me go back to that.
Yeah, because
Be replacing that sign, yes.
how much, I mean, so what's the size of the current sign there? The dimensional, the background of what I guess.
Right there it is.
The current sign is 122.7 square feet.
Okay, so is that 9 foot by 10 foot? What is it? Because the current, what they're looking at putting in is 9 foot, 10 inches by 16 foot. That's the back panel. That's the sign itself.
So you approved a variance at 14 foot 7 inches by 8 foot 5 inches.
Okay. So basically 2 foot. What was the second one's 8 foot what?
5 inches.
8.5, so that's 5 inches and then 2 foot, 5 inches, basically.
Heather, may I ask a question
Yes.
before we get further? Going back to this, since I did not install the sign, I just want to make sure we're all clear here and we're talking on the same thing. Did last year, when we came here, did we discuss as a board right here that the sign, the actual size was based on 3'2" by 14.6" and some change, where the pharmacy drive-through was counted and then the pickup sign was counted and that 11-inch gap was omitted? Would that make up the difference of what we're talking here?
So our code essentially draws a box around the outermost graphics or
Okay.
text. Otherwise, we'd have to consider it separate signs. So that's how we would calculate that square footage.
Okay, so that's how we did it last year. Yes, to my understanding, the way that I was describing that all of this package hinges on this would be the sign that you have in front of you is what will be installed, all of those signs, pending this one variance approval. Otherwise, the old branding, which you also have, will just remain in place.
Was that picture on the left where it just says drive-through, was that the old sign that was there?
Correct, old before the last variance was
Okay.
approved. So you'll see it in your packet. I had put a copy of the permit that we issued on May 16th of 2024, and you'll see that drive-through sign is the existing attached to that permit, and then the proposed that was approved by the variance.
6 foot.
I myself don't have a problem with this because there's, like you said, there's multiple things here. And it's a little bit bigger than what's up there now, but I mean, in my opinion, a lot of older people use the pharmacy, I know, that's right. I'm sorry about that.
being installed here.
And better they can read and know where they're going is
Sort of like the truck
kind of a
sign?
safety thing.
When I drive by it though, that sign's up, that's a big sign.
It
Like,
is,
there's
it's
no-
8.5
it's-
foot by 14
it's
foot right
pretty
now.
clear.
That's big.
Okay, anyone else care to express an opinion on this from the lobby? Anything else from the board? Final thoughts? Mr. Flieger?
Yeah, I'm not sure what giving another 2 foot on top of that, because that's a huge sign. I drive right there and I wear glasses. I'm old. I'm one of them. And I can see that just fine, me personally. So I'm not sure. I understand the rebranding piece, but that's already rebranded. The rest of your stuff that is what you're trying to change or proposing to change shouldn't have any impact on them making that sign larger, because you're not reducing anything. You're just adding to.
Well, some of the other signs are going to be larger or smaller, and that's where the square footage is, right, going to be a factor? If I'm understanding that right?
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I reviewed it, most of the signs were all the same size that were under the previous variances. So,
They didn't have to have any variance added because it's the same size.
Some of them grew a little bit, some of them shrunk, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, at least from the renderings, what I can see, maybe.
Like the liquor sign, I believe, is a little bigger. OHLQ, their branding's bigger than it used to be. Marketplace is shrinking, but the Kroger sign with that cart are a little bit bigger than the old style oval. Just the way this is set up, it brings everything onto this one sign to get that aggregate up to where we need to be. Otherwise, it'd be multiple variances on other signs, and I believe that's why we went with this option of how to file.
Mr. Crawford?
Nothing else.
I guess I go back to our 7 criteria, and as I look through in my checklist, I feel like because of the scope of this, it's the 2 things that would sway me would be, is it substantial or not, and does it change the character of the commercial neighborhood? And in my judgment, it does neither. So I don't have a particular problem with it. Mr. Emmerich?
I mean, it is a pretty big sign, but this is a heavily commercial area, and I do sort of buy into the hardship of this is one of the biggest commercial marketplaces in the city that has different businesses within one place. So to enhance, customer experience and help old people find which end the pharmacy is on.
Hey, watch it there.
Yeah, right.
He looked at you, not me.
I noticed it did.
I didn't look at anyone in particular.
Ms. Ennis?
I just have, I don't see a problem with it at all. We old people need to see the signs.
Mr. Johnson?
Obviously, Kroger has an understanding that we're moving into a new way of shopping, and they promote regularly among its users boost programs and things like that, where they're trying to get people to buy in this manner rather than go in store. And so it's a trend that's among storefronts, and I think it's a reasonable request.
Mr. Sockman, anything else?
I got nothing further.
Okay. Anyone care to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Sockman, seconded by Ms. Ennis, that the variance request be approved as submitted. Any further discussion? Mr. Secretary?
David Flair? No. Jay Sockman? Yes. Jeff Crawford?
No.
Tim Emmert?
Yes.
Judy Annis?
I'm sorry, did you call me?
Yep.
We old people can't hear either. Yes.
Hobie Johnson?
Yes?
Rod Noble?
Yes. And your variance request has been approved, and please see the planning department and
Thank you.
get the
Appreciate
permits
it.
cleaned up for you.
And just clarifying, can I leave the check with you tonight, Heather, for the
Yes.
sign package and save the drive from Finley?
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
You're
I'll wait
welcome.
till the end. Thank you.
Anyone in the lobby care to enlighten us with any comments this evening? Anyone else from the board? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Not at this end. All right. All in favor, say aye. We're adjourned.
Aye.
Hey.